Hi everyone, John Pokerchip Friedberg here with another episode of Stacking Chips, your strategy source for the 2007 World Series of Poker, the Bellagio Cup, and the several other events going on right here in lovely Las Vegas. Today is Wednesday and it's day 2B of the World Series of Poker main event, and as you all know, I got knocked out pretty early in day 1C, about halfway through, about 5 p.m. So I'm no longer in the event, but there are 4 guys that I have a piece of, actually a fairly good piece of, 4 guys that I staked in the World Series this year or invested in part equity in them, and all 4, or actually I originally invested in 6, but 4 of them are still in. I'm excited about that, and I don't normally invest in players, just for the record, but I do like to either trade percentages or invest in players during the World Series. I don't do so much investing in players outside of the World Series, but I do like the fact that the World Series has relatively small buy-in events that have huge payouts, and so I did decide to make an investment this year in some players. I probably invested about close to, anyway, that's not really relevant, but I'm actually going to be profiting this year. I'm dead even. I'm actually up probably 5,000 or 6,000, maybe 10,000 going into the main event. And I'm on a pure fee roll in the main event, so although I'm out of this tournament, I am enjoying watching these players, A, because they're my friends, and B, because I have a vested interest in their performance. But anyway, there's one thing that I've been meaning to mention, and that is Barry Greenstein's book, Ace on the River. Barry, I've spoken a few things about Barry. He's a very nice guy, obviously an amazing poker player, and just a really nice guy. He gives he gives all of his tournament winnings to charity, which is, of course, an admirable thing, and he's sort of known as a Robin Hood of poker. One thing that Barry does is every tournament he plays in, he carries one of his books with him. And whenever he gets knocked out, he signs that book and writes what happened in the hand, and then gives it to the person that knocked him out. Well, I actually knocked Barry out of the $1,000 no-limit hold'em rebuy tournament, my last event before the main event, and he gave me this book, and I've been meaning to basically publicly thank Barry for that, and of course show this book to everyone. I'll be honest with you, I haven't read it yet, but it's got some excellent pictures, and I've heard several really good things about this book, so I am going to read it. I'm looking forward to it. Just from skimming through it, it doesn't look like it's necessarily a strategy book, which there's so many of them out there already. It's more just about life in poker and bankroll management and people in poker, attitude of a poker player, basically how to tell if you're a natural, etc., etc. So again, thank you, Barry, for the book, and yeah, I would recommend this to anyone looking to learn more about poker and the poker world. All right, let's get on to a few emails here. I've gotten quite a few of these things spilling over, so we're going to address a few. The first one comes from Joe in New Jersey. Joe writes, "Hey John, I saw you survive day 1 in the main event." By the way, that's not true, and the media coverage, I think, still shows me as in the main event. I got knocked out 5 hours into day 1, and I'm definitely not still in, but I appreciate the good hopes anyway. Hopefully you can keep it going on day 2. I really enjoy watching Stacking Chips and appreciate you taking the time to do something that takes up a lot of your time during the hectic World Series. Anyway, I saw today on cardplayer.com the hand of the day is one between you and Kevin O'Donnell from last year's World Series event that you won. It says that you overbet the pot and re-raised him all in after the flop with middle pair. He called with top pair, top kicker. I was wondering if you could maybe talk about this hand from your own perspective on Stacking Chips and explain why you played the hand that certain way. Thanks and good luck with everything you do. Thanks very much, Joe. Yeah, that hand was an interesting hand, and just from the out-of-context appearance of that hand on ESPN, it looked like I just, had a crappy hand and just shoved all in and prayed. Well, of course it looked like that, but there was actually a lot more to it, and I'll tell you a little bit about that. Late in day 2, in fact, very late in day 2, when we were down to 2 tables, and we were probably at the 2-table mark for a couple of hours, Kevin O'Donnell was on my immediate right. And every time it folded around to him in his small blind, he would raise in my big blind. I mean, every single time. And, of course, that was only the times when it was folded to him. There wasn't a single time when it was folded to him and he just called or gave me a walk or anything. He raised it every time, and it was probably 5 or 6 times. Excuse me. I don't remember if we had the same situation happen at the final table, but again, he was immediately to my right, and I knew he liked to... Oh, sorry, one thing I didn't say was, and every time he did that, I either folded or I called and then surrendered on the flop. I never made a move, I never made a stand, and so anyway, we get to the final table, and ESPN did not show the very first hand I played. Actually, I won a small pot off of John Fan first, and then I doubled up with pocket kings versus ace-jack, leaving my opponent, I forget his name, Tang, I think, yeah, his name was Tang, leaving him with only 1,000 in chips. And ESPN started the coverage immediately after I doubled up with pocket kings, so I had a fair amount of chips on the start of the TV coverage, which wasn't really the case in the actual tournament. But anyway, so with Kevin constantly raising my big blind from the small blind, I just really felt like he was taking advantage of me. I was playing tight, I was playing like a nit, and I told myself if he did it again, I was going to make a stand. Well, sure enough, it's folded around to Kevin. He raises in the big blind, or sorry, in the small blind, and of course this time he has a real hand, which I can't put him on a real hand because he's done this so many times before, and you know, it's just very unlikely that he's had a real hand every time. So he raised, standard raised to 3x the big blind, and I call with a 6-8, which is not a terrible hand to be in a heads-up blind battle with. And I told myself, I said, if I flop any piece of this or any kind of draw, I'm gonna make a move here because I need to make a stand, and I know he's just trying to steamroll me. So sure enough, the flop comes Jack 8-5. I think it was a rainbow flop, so I flopped middle pair. I flopped a backdoor straight draw, and I just thought, the only hand he could call me with here, obviously if he had a big pair in his hand, but if he has a jack, and if he doesn't have a jack, which he probably doesn't, then I'm in good shape here. And I haven't made a move against this guy yet, so I think even if he had a decent hand, like maybe 9s or 10s or even a weak jack, he might get off the hand here. So anyway, he makes a standard bet of half or 60% of the pot or whatever it was, and I push all in. And it wasn't really an over bet necessarily, but it was one of those bets where if I made a standard pot size bet, it would have left me with a small amount of chips. So I just said, the hell with it, I'm just going to go all in here. I have Kevin covered, not by much, but I have him covered by about 100,000, and I just was going to make a move, and that was it. And just by fluke, he ended up having top pair, top kicker, which was unfortunate for me, but I got lucky. I spiked an 8 on the river, doubled up, knocked out Kevin in 5th place. Kevin is a good friend of mine. I still feel terrible for this day for putting that beat on him, but you know what? I was just playing my hand, and I got lucky against him. And of course, he probably should have won that pot, but that's poker. And anyway, so that's why I played that hand that way. It wasn't as much of a donkey move as it appeared to be. I just was ready to make a stand because I felt like he was picking on me. And I think it's important for your image when you find somebody steamrolling on you or trying to steamroll you. You really need to stand up for yourself and defend your blinds in that spot. Okay, the next question comes from Sean. Sean writes, I was playing one of the Deep Stack Venetian events last week and had already made it into the money. We were down to 28 players and I had about 70,000 in chips. I was one of the shorter stacks remaining in the tournament. The blinds were 4 and 8,000 with the $1,000 ante. 7 players were at our table. I was in the cutoff position and had pocket 9s and moved all in. I figured with only 3 players behind me, it was unlikely either of them would hold a higher pair, and I wanted to make it difficult for a marginal hand like ace-jack or king-queen suited to call. The small blind woke up to pocket queens, and I got knocked out in 28th place. Was this the right play? Should I have made a standard raise and given myself a chance to fold? That's an excellent question, and this is like your typical sort of Dan Harrington scenario here, where you're in the money, you're on the cutoff, you're in late position. Their blinds are 4 and 8K with a $1,000 ante. You have 70K in chips, so you have like just under 9 big blinds. Your M, anyway, I don't even want to talk about the M. You have just under 9 big blinds, and you have pocket 9s on the cutoff and a 7-handed table. I mean, your 2 options here are raising it to making a standard raise of between 20 and 30,000, which is about 2.5 to 3.5 big blinds. And if you do that, you're leaving yourself with 40 or 50,000. You're also committing almost half of your chips there, and if you do that, then of course your opponent from the button or the small blind or the big blind, one of the three behind you, can push all in and try to get you off the hand. I think you absolutely made the right choice here, and the reason for that is, if you, let's say, in this spot, I would probably raise it. I mean, if I had a lot of chips here, my standard raise on 4 and 8K blinds with a $1,000 ante, I'd probably raise it anywhere from 22 to 24,000. Now, if you do that, you're leaving yourself with 46 to 48K in chips, and you're giving yourself the chance for someone to try to bluff you out of the pot. So even if you know you're willing to commit your chips here, then you may as well just move all in, because let's say you make a raise with your pocket nines to 24,000, leaving you with 46K in chips, and the big blind wakes up to an ace 3. Okay, he might think you're on a steal, and he might try to re-steal with an ace 3, and then yes, you're a favorite, but he also might suck out. Maybe ace 3 is not a good example because you probably want to be against an ace 3. But let's say the guy has 10 jack. Okay, very marginal hand, but not a good hand that you want to play against with pocket nines, because now you're only a slight favorite. So you don't want to give them a chance to re-steal or do what they think they're doing, re-steal as they think they're doing. So I think the right play there is absolutely just to push all in. You don't have a lot of chips. It is unlikely you're going to get a call, and they're without a marginal hand anyway, it's unlikely you're going to get a call. So I think that's the right play. You definitely played that one right. Now, if you had 100,000 in chips, I might have played a little bit differently. I probably would have made a standard raise to 22 or 24,000, and then reevaluated after that. There's still some missing information here. I don't know if your opponent's, re-raising you every time, or if this guy is a nit, if he's playing very tight, he's playing loose, and of course that would weigh your decision here on if you would call off the rest of your chips after making a standard raise. But with only 70,000 in chips, fewer than 10 big blinds, I think the right play is just to shove in here. So, but, unfortunate for you, you just ran into a bigger hand. You got cooler, that's really it. But you still made the money, so good job there. All right, this question, actually it's not really, well, yeah, there is a question here. There's two things. This one's from Jerry. Now, Jerry points out, he says, in your list of 10 things not to do, which I gave in one of my previous episodes, I listened twice and only heard you say 9 things. Now, he wrote down all the ones he's heard, and I went and compared them to my list, and I actually made a huge mistake. I told everyone that it was my top 10 don'ts in tournament poker, but when I was reading off my computer here, I only read 9 of them. So it is a top 10 list. I apologize, I only read 9. But I'm going to read the one that I accidentally skipped over right now, because I do think it's an important don't, just like the other 9 that I said. And this one is, don't apologize to your opponent after knocking them out of a tournament. Basically, if you're going to apologize after knocking someone out, then you shouldn't have played against them or played in the tournament in the first place. You should never be sorry for knocking someone out of a tournament. We're playing in tournaments in order to knock everyone out of the tournament and to be the last man standing or the last woman standing to win the tournament. And, don't ever apologize for knocking somebody out. And that's maybe contradicting to what I just said about Kevin O'Donnell, because I actually did apologize to him because I knocked him out. But I think that was sort of an extreme situation. We were at a televised final table. The difference in payouts were huge. If he wins that pot, he has, close to $1 million in chips playing for $500,000. And I basically went up to him and I said, I'm sorry, man, that was terrible. And it was unfortunate. But generally speaking, I think don't apologize when you knock someone out of a tournament, because we're all here to knock everyone we're playing against out of the tournament. All right, well, I have one other question here, but actually I have several other questions, but we're running a little low on time, so I'm going to get to those in another episode. And so that's really it. But I want to give a shout out to my sister Lauren in Houston, who's about to go on a nice vacation with her boyfriend John and their kids. I know they're going to have a good time. I think they're going out to San Antonio. So hi Lauren, hi John. Hope you guys have a good time. My guest today had a phenomenal year in the World Series last year. He broke onto the poker scene as a 21-year-old. He he won a bracelet, becoming the youngest ever bracelet winner. A week later, he won a second bracelet, and of course was then the youngest 2-time bracelet winner in poker history. Last year, he had 4 final tables in the World Series, winning 2 bracelets. Absolutely amazing accomplishment. Ladies and gentlemen, Jeff the Kid Madsen. Well, Jeff, thanks for coming on the show, man.
Thanks, John. Good
Glad
to be here.
to have you here.
Definitely.
So, unfortunately, you ended up busting last night from the main event, late in day 2A.
Right.
Tell us about your run in the main event and, of course, the rest of your World Series.
Right. The main event went pretty well. Started out pretty strong. My table was really bad, so I kind of took advantage of some weak players and made some tricky plays. I got up to about 80,000 day one. Day two, and actually I had to wear the Jester costume day one, which is interesting. It was kind of uncomfortable. And day two I didn't have to wear it, and I didn't play as well, so not sure why. It was weird. But yeah, day two just not a lot of good situations, and I didn't pick a lot of good spots. There's a couple of mistakes I made, and never really had a lot of chips. Just ended up busting on a race. Nothing too big, but you know, I'm happy I made it to the end of day two. I played pretty well. So
how about the rest of your World Series?
The rest of my World Series, you know, when you have such a good year in 06, obviously there was some pressure on me this year. But, you know, I did all right. I actually went deep in a lot of tournaments, but didn't cash in a lot of tournaments. I cashed in 3 tournaments. And, but, you know, I would play kind of deep and then, you know, not get unlucky late or just get into bad situations. So it wasn't the best World Series, but, you know, I'm still happy with it. 3 cashes is, you know, it's decent.
Well, I mean, last year you had just sort of you were like the shot heard around the world in the World Series, so to speak. I mean,
yeah.
You came out, you had 4 final tables, you won 2 bracelets at only like, 21 years and 35 days or something?
Yeah.
And, I mean, you shattered like all the expectations, all the records, and, I mean, by the way, congratulations on that. And I can imagine how much pressure there is on you, you know, coming off of a year like that here in the World Series. I mean, what did you do anything to sort of try to minimize that pressure or cope with that pressure? Or
yeah, I mean, it's a blessing and a curse. You know, obviously doing that well that early, you get used to just like poker seeming easy, and poker is the hardest thing in the world. You know, so this year's kind of just been about me learning about like the poker circuit and playing with different people, and you know, realizing that it's really tough. But you know, I know I'm good enough to start doing really well again. It's my first year, you know, so I'm still new to this.
Well, you still had, I should have looked up your numbers, but I mean, you've cashed for well over, $1.5 million, close to $2 million in the last 12 months?
1.7, yeah.
So, still a spectacular year. I mean, obviously a great start, and maybe not, you know, tailed off a little bit, but that's how poker goes.
Yeah.
But so, what do you think? You won 2 bracelets last year. Mm-hmm. What do you think it takes to win a tournament? Not necessarily a World Series tournament. You know, a lot of our viewers, you know, some of them play high stakes, some play low stakes, but tournaments are tournaments, and they all have sort of the same, in my opinion, they take sort of the same qualities to win. What do you think it takes to win a tournament?
Well, I mean, obviously there are a lot of factors, but in my game, I focus on a few things. Obviously, I'm an aggressive player, and I think it's really important that people realize that poker is more about, you know, your perception at the table and how other people play, and less about your cards. So I feel like if you learn how to read people well and you pick up patterns, stuff like that, and you know how to maneuver your chips, then you can do well in any tournament despite the cards you get. So yeah, I feel it's just about realizing that, you know, using your chips as a tool in a tournament is very important, and, you know which players to pick on, which players to kind of stay away from, and then just get yourself in good situations. And if you play aggressive, then you can accumulate a lot of chips fast. I'll tell you what.
So let me get your opinion. Going into day 2 of the World Series, you're coming in with, did you say 80,000?
80,000. Yeah.
Okay, coming in 80,000, and what did the blinds start?
They were 6 and 12.
6 and 12?
So actually fairly big, I mean.
Right.
I'd say. So, yeah, I mean, I just came in with that same mindset, just play aggressive, and my table was on the weak side. I would just say, like, I played a couple, you know, I would win some pots, maybe outplay people, and then I would kind of bluff some back. And I think I just needed to slow down at some points and just sort of play more solid. Sometimes people, you know, try and outplay their opponents too much, and I've been doing that lately, and sometimes you just have to play solid.
I think that's one of the biggest problems that I have when I'm playing against weak players.
Yeah.
I just tell myself that I can get them to fold these hands.
Yeah.
But a lot of these guys are just not, they don't realize how weak they are. They don't understand that they're not supposed to call with middle pair.
Right.
Even if they think they have the best hand, they just they're not getting the right price to call.
Yeah.
And I find that I fall into that trap all the time.
Yeah, you just wait for the situation when, you know, you flop the set and that's when they pay you off. And you realize you didn't have to wait to, like, you know, make that bluff with with the straight draw or whatever it happened to be. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, let me ask you this, Jeff. You're sort of like the role model, so to speak, for so many of these younger generation of players who want to pursue poker full time, but they're in college or a lot of them even in high school. Young guys now playing online at the age of 18, etc. You came into the poker world, as I've mentioned 35 times already in this episode. You killed the World Series last year, and you're like sort of the ideal, of what everyone dreams about doing.
Right.
What advice would you give to people out there who are considering playing poker full time, for a career, especially the younger generation? People that are in, say, their second or third year of college that are profitable in poker. I mean, would you suggest for people to stay in school? Would you suggest that they pursue poker? What's your take on it?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to tell anybody specifically what they should do, but because I did so well, I was able to kind of go right into the poker world, and it was kind of easy. And most people don't make 1.5 million right off the bat, so it's important to be able to know how to manage your money. That's one thing, because if you just leave school and kind of pursue poker, it might not last that long if you don't know what you're doing. So I would just say study the game as much as you can, and if you feel you're a good player, don't necessarily make poker the only thing, but do your best to make sure you have money there so you can play poker for a long time and keep learning and get better at the game.
So do you think that people should stay in school and try to complete their degree, even if it means fewer poker hours, just so they can have something to fall back on in case poker doesn't work out?
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely recommend a degree, especially, I would say it depends kind of what you want to do besides poker. I was a film major, so I sort of felt that school is important, but the film industry is sort of a little different from if you want to be like, a doctor or something like that. So, but I would definitely recommend staying in school.
So what's your plan from here? You're playing on the Full Tilt poker team,
right?
And of course it must be very nice to have a sponsor, in a lot of these events and whatnot. But what's your plan for the next, say, 12 months?
I'm going to keep going with poker, just trying to figure everything out. I just got a place in Vegas, so that's kind of a big deal. And I'm just going to keep going with poker, and I still have other interests. I still like film, and I might pursue something like that. But for now, I'm here to stay.
So we'll see you on the World Poker Tour.
Definitely.
Are you going to play any European events? And obviously you'll be playing Australia.
Yeah, I've never been to Europe, so I definitely want to travel all around there and play all those events. And they're going to have the World Series in Europe, I think, too. So I'm playing everything I can. And I played Australia last year too, so I'll play it again this year.
Yeah, that's a great tournament. I'm playing that this year as well. I played it a couple of years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So how about the Bellagio Cup? You're starting. By the way, Bellagio added a third starting day to the Bellagio Cup now, which was very smart of them to accommodate for a lot of the people in the World Series main event who, obviously made it to day 2B, who are playing right now as we speak. And fortunately in order to help the Bellagio get more players, they extended a third day so people that bust out today can come in. That you're starting Bellagio day 1C tomorrow.
Yeah.
And you looking forward to it?
Yeah, it's been a long month and a half. I've played so much poker, but I'm going to give this one a shot, and then there'll be a little break before Legends of Poker. But I feel like I'm playing close to my best game. I just got to eliminate some mistakes, and I feel like I'll play well tomorrow.
All right. Well, best of luck to you in the Bellagio Cup. And
you too.
I'm still trying to decide if I want to play or not, because I'm also extremely burnt out.
Yeah, man.
But hopefully, if I do play, and even if I don't, hopefully you'll go deep, and if I play, hopefully I'll go deep as well. All right, well, thanks for coming on the show, Jeff.
Definitely.
It's great to have you.
Thanks, man.
Well, that's it for today's episode of Stacking Chips. Make sure to tune in tomorrow and every day throughout the rest of the World Series for more strategy talk, discussions, interviews, and more right here on Card Player TV. And keep those emails coming in to stackingchips@cardplayer.com. From John Poker Trip Friedberg
and Jeff Madsen.
We're out of here. Good luck, good night, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.